We have finally stepped out of the anime shitpost land, as now we're taking a look at the OG win condition archetype, the old fan favorite, the Exodia archetype, used by Yugimoto and dual monsters in a grand total of 1 duel, used by later in dual monster by Seeker in a grand total of 2 duels, and in GX by Amon Garam in a grand total of 2 duels, I think. My memory doesn't serve me quite well on that one. Alright, without further ado, let's get started with the titular 5 Forbidden One pieces. Right arm, or left arm, right leg, and left leg, and of course the head, known as the Exodia, the Forbidden One. All of these allow you to instantly win the duel if all of them are in your hand together. Yes, this was the first win condition to ever appear in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right in the old set, The Legend of Blue Eyes. And for the time it was, I mean, convoluted to say the least, because the draw power cards were very rare at the time and Pot of Greed was like banned right as soon as it got printed, so yeah, it was not the most optimal way to go about things, but with enough trial and error, the archetype, well, the game got quite a few draw power cards which helped the archetype achieve that victory condition. And yes, all of these 5 pieces are all limited to this very day, because taking in 3 of these would result in a quarter of your deck being splashed in with Exodia cards, and it was pretty busted. So yeah, they had to make some amends in order to make this deck a bit fair. However, there are a plethora of draw power cards which help out in said regard of getting all these victory pieces together. So Exodia decks are better than they ever were, and yeah, this is just a starting point to something great. Alright, now that we've got the main pieces out of the way, let's start getting their other notable cards out of the way. First up being the level 1 True Exodia. It's a level 1 with 0 attack and defense, and if the only monsters on the field are this card and 4 Forbidden One normal monsters with different names, the opponent of this card's controller wins the duel. Now, you might seem like, yeah, this is an instant lose condition. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be. You just give this thing to your opponent via Xian Spy and manage to get all the other Forbidden One cards onto the field and you win. Yeah, it's a bit of a fun gimmicky challenge if you ever want to base your deck around this thing, but it's worth a shot or two if you actually want to spice your deck building skills up a bit. Anyway, next up we have the level 4 Exodia Necros. Yeah, I would have loved if this was Necros of Exodia in the Necros archetype more, but anyway. It's a level 4 with 1800 attack and 0 defense, and cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned with contract with Exodia, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Cannot be destroyed by battle or by spell and trap card effects. Once per turn, during your standby phase, this card gains 500 attack. Destroy this card unless all 5 of these cards are in the graveyard. Yeah, all 5 Exodia pieces, left arm and leg and right arm and leg, and along with the Exodia's head. Yeah, and contract with Exodia is their only spell card, which allows you to special summon Exodia Necros if all 5 Exodia parts are in your graveyard. You special summon Exodia Necros only from the hand. Yeah. In the anime, this was actually a ritual monster, and contract with Exodia was actually a ritual spell card. And yeah, it's a Nomi monster, so yeah, it has nice protection, but unless you have Necro Valley on the field, this thing is pretty worthless. But if you do have, this thing is an okay beat stick, unless of course the opponent has access to Kaijus, which he probably does, since this is modern Yu-Gi-Oh! We're talking about. And not to mention that getting 5 Exodia parts into the graveyard is an extremely painful task to do in this day and age, since of course all parts of the Exodia are limited. Yeah, I would say avoid this one, because there are far better alternatives when it comes to Exodia boss monsters. Anyway, next up we have the level 10 Exodia's the Ultimate Forbidden Lord. It has undetermined attack and 0 defense, and cannot be normal summoned or set, and must be special summoned from your hand by shuffling all monsters in your graveyard into the deck, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. When this card declares an attack, send one monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard. This card gains 1000 attack for each normal monster in your graveyard. If this face-up card would leave the field, banish it instead. If there are 5 different Forbidden One cards in your graveyard that were sent there by this card's effect, you win the duel. And yeah, this is an alternate version of Exodia's victory condition, and it's actually serves as kind of a backup option if you want to maybe set up the play for Exodia Necros, if you actually really want to do that. Or if it gets destroyed prematurely, so you can use stuff like Dark Factory Mass Production or Backup Soldier to retrieve Exodia parts you sent with this thing's effect to the graveyard. So yeah, perfectly serviceable in that regard. However, its most common usage is as a really good tech option in rank 10 spam decks, since it's basically a free monster if you have at least one monster in your graveyard. So yeah, it recycles your graveyard and basically gives you a free monster to go into stuff like Gustav Max or Super Dora, since rank 10 trains are the most common thing you summon in rank 10 builds. So yeah, that is, yeah, if you run this in an Exodia deck, you usually don't run it at any more than one, although if you ever run it, you don't run it at all, because you mostly focus on pure 5-part Exodia plays. Next up, we have a more splashable and more useful tech option in Exodia decks, that being the legendary Exodia Incarnate, also a level 10, same stats as Exodius, and cannot be normal summoned or set, and must be special summoned from your hand by attributing one Forbidden One monster, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. This card gains 1000 attack for each Forbidden One monster in your graveyard, unaffected by other card effects. Once per turn during your end phase, add one Forbidden One monster from your graveyard to your hand. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can reveal any number of Forbidden One monsters in your hand, and if you do, draw one card for each. Yeah, this thing does not screw around, as you probably noticed. This thing supports the classic Exodia in the best way possible. This thing is amazing, really, in every sense of the word. An instant normal summoning on a Forbidden One monster instantly equals an Exodia Incarnate, and not to mention you get this piece back during the end phase. And when it gets when it is destroyed by battle, which it probably is gonna be, except if if kaijus aren't a thing, which they are. It's gonna get destroyed by battle, and if you have at least 2 or 3 Exodia pieces, which you probably will have by the end of the turn if you summon this in a pure Exodia build, you'll get to draw around 3 or 4 cards. So yeah, it's a really busted draw engine on top of a really draw heavy archetype as it is. So yeah, this thing is definitely ran at 3 at all times in Exodia builds that actually want to reinforce their draw engines even more. Alright, so now for their final monster, we're getting into the weird territory yet again, with Exodia Master of the Guard. Undetermined attack and defense, level 10 once again, cannot be special summoned. You can tribute 5 monsters to tribute summon this card, but not set. If this card summoned this way destroys a Dark Fiend monster that is owned by your opponent by battle, you win the duel. This card's attack and defense become the combined original attack and defense of the tributed monsters. Okay, so this is... we have yet another Exodia monster with a victory condition. But this has got to be the most specific victory condition I have ever seen in the universe. Dark Fiend monster that is owned by your opponent. Not only is it pain to set this thing up, but it's also a pain in the ass to summon this card. You need to tribute summon this. Tribute summon, not special summon, by tributing 5 monsters you control. I mean, it's not that hard of a task in this link-focused meta, but come on, 5 monsters for a simple tribute summon, that's a bit too much. And not to mention you need to have on board DNA surgery and DNA transport in order to make all monsters Dark Fiend monsters. So yeah, this is a very specific victory condition. In other words, don't run it. And the final Exodia card is the continuous trap cards, Obliterate. You can target while wanting a monster on the field, send one Forbidden One monster or Exodia card from your hand to the graveyard, and if you do, return that target to the hand. If this card is sent from the spell and trap zone to the graveyard, you can target one Forbidden One monster or Exodia card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use one Obliterate effect per turn and only once that turn. This seems like a very mediocre recycling tool, and yeah, if you really crave recycling and run discard-based draw cards such as Dark World Dealings, and you send Exodia parts to the graveyard, you usually run Dark Factory of Mass Production or the Backup Soldier. Yeah, if you run this, you don't usually run it at more than one. Anyway, time for the grades. With consistency, there are 0 complaints. This is a pure 3 out of 3 because the game has a lot of draw power cards, some worse than others. The Exodia players usually run Cup of Ace, which is an Arcana Force support card that relies on luck for you to draw 2 cards. So yeah, that says quite about this thing. The draw power the archetype wants. So yeah, the consistency is a definite 3 out of 3. Now power gets a 1 out of 3 because their only legitimate beaters can be the Exodia Incarnate and Exodius, none of which are commonly used for their beat stick effects. So yeah, this is a 1 out of 3 there. Now comeback ability, I mean, it usually depends on if you open up really bad or if you don't get close enough to getting a victory with Exodia parts, you're probably gonna lose the duel pretty fast after that. So they have some comeback options, some minor ones, but I'm going to be generous and give them a 2 out of 3 there. Protection is absolutely non-existent, and that is basically the problem of all aggressive archetypes like this one, since, you know, they don't build up field presence at all. So 1 out of 3 there. And versatility, yeah, they can be pretty versatile with many draw power cards the game has in their database. So yeah, I'm going to give them a 3 out of 3 there. The Exodia archetype is pretty decently handled. So yeah, it should come to no surprise that Exodia cards should probably get some more support, and not something like Exodia Master of the Guard. God damn it, why did they even print that? Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing more Exodia support if it ever comes out. Probably will. But anyway, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and updates. Comment, like, and subscribe. And as usual, I'll upload the next vid whenever I can. See you all, have a good day, and peace.